Okay, hi there again. This is the Friday live stream again. We had something, it crashed. I was using the tablet. I should never use the tablet. It doesn't work. It's unstable as a platform. And because it's unstable as a platform, it crashed. And because it crashed, it was frozen so we're, 20 minutes below, we were 10 minutes a show and we lost things. So let me just repeat what I said. So hi there, happy New Year's. Hope everything's okay. I think we lost the previous early part of the live stream, so I apologize. I apologize for not being here last week because we had Christmas at my mother-in-law's and we had I couldn't edit. Again, internet issues and unable to really do it. My wife said, "Oh, why don't you try it again here at home? Our internet's better." No, I have to use the old tablet. And please forgive me if the tablet goes kind of fooey and that's the computer goes. We have images problems with this when I use the here. Some people say that sometimes the picture goes dead. And so Christmas is Christmas. We had, like I said, we had a pretty decent event for Christmas in that sense. We had what did we have? We had basically, as I mentioned, we had family Christmas. My wife preferred doing Christmas at her mother's house because the kitchen's better. So they had their Vigilia on Christmas Eve. They had the Polish Vigilia dish, which I just had red barsh. They had their Polish dishes, which usually I can't eat because I don't like, I'm allergic to seafood and mushroom stuff. And she made me some, pierogies with beef in them. It's tenderloin, kalduni, with tenderloin. So it's like with the borscht. So it's like that was pretty good. This is like completely against Polish Vigilia tradition, because it's supposed to be meatless in that sense. No meats, dip fish, sweets, and things like that, mushrooms, and my wife had some, I think some, not carp, but some, I don't know, some kind of fish dish. I don't remember what it was, but she also had herrings and things like this. And then next day, Christmas ham. We had Christmas ham. I described it in the previous thing. I'm sorry. Our people who were here lost. Mr. Greenglass was here and said hi, and I hope Mr. Greenglass will come back. I sent the new link on thing and hope people will come. So Christmas was a thing. I apologize for our session today, that it's tech problems. Warsaw, as I mentioned to the other group earlier, that there's a big protest. The farmers are back and protesting against the government. The government is ignoring the law again on certain things. The court ruled about refunding the opposition, and the government said, we're going to ignore the court decision. The government said, the prime minister said, I'm going to only recognize court decisions that I like. The other thing is that the government also did something really shocking recently. It said that it was if the election result for the upcoming elections in May for the presidency doesn't come out the way they want, they're going to ignore the election results. So, and there's fear among some opposition people, the people, political actors here. There's fear that the government's going to start very repressive measures. The Tusk regime will start because they realize that if the coalition will probably lose the next election, so that they want to basically do as much as possible to keep hold of power. So they started defunding the opposition. They started arresting members of the opposition. They arrest them without a quick trial. For 6 months they held a priest who was given a contract to deliver services from the previous government. They arrested him and a couple other people in jail for 6 months without even beginning trials. They just and used it to kind of put pressure, have the priest turn on it, like really typical in Central European countries of they still behave like Soviet thugs in that sense. They don't have any traditional citizen rights and things like that. They can protective custody and withholding custody, and don't go for speedy trials in that sense. So, and the president, Duda is to be honest with you, Duda is not doesn't have the, given what the current prime minister has done, the president should have acted more decisively using, declared national emergency and removed the government for violating the law. But that's not happening. Duda doesn't have the balls to do what is necessary in that sense. He wants to act like, he wants to be moderate. And the problem here is the current government will use that moderation as a weapon to delegitimize and demoralize, and also to basically delegalize the opposition. So therefore, this is what's going on. The opposition, it's going to be an ugly campaign this spring. And I think things will get worse. And I think they will release the police power, people I know, and among opposition activists and intellectuals suspect that the government is going to start sending people to, target them, arresting them. Now, something the PIS government never did, never targeted and used the police and the military to harass. They never arrested ministers and things like this, what they're doing now. People, ex-ministers who are still members of parliament and even European parliamentarians have been arrested and had their immunity ignored. Okay. I mean, this is the behavior of this government has violated every European norm of human rights and rule of law. But the Germans, the Germans and the EU bureaucracy and the EU, the neoliberals, wanted Tusk in power. They wanted to overthrow the PIS government. And they got their way. They were able to do so because the PIS government made mistakes, in that sense, electoral mistakes that had them to be in power. Even though they won the largest proportion of the vote, they didn't have enough to form an outright majority, given the complex nature of the proportional representation system of the Polish parliamentary system. So, which is designed to make majority governments highly unlikely. So therefore, the nature of proportional representation is designed to always basically force coalition governments, and coalition governments are usually deals among the crooked. So therefore, the government bought the left and what we call the old PSL, I can't even get their name. I can't pronounce Hodna crowd. So they were bought. They got their things. They got their 30 pieces of silver. That's So therefore, that's the weird things. Even though the Hodna crowd is against the Green New Deal because they're PSL. Regarding Syria, he deserves it. The Syrian regime deserved to fall. Always deserved to fall. It was a thug. The son was never the father. Okay. The son never had any of the good skills. He was a thug. He was under Iranian control, something his father never really, his father cooperated, who, used the Iranians to achieve their end, but was usually the upper-handed player. The son was basically the puppet of the Iranians and was only kept in power by the Iranian support and the Russian support. Iran will probably be, regarding Iran, you asked me about Iran, I think it's on the verge of collapse internally. It has its own problems. And with Trump back in power and using economic sanctions and oil, unleashing the oil, return of the punitive sanctions against the Tehran, the Obama-Biden silliness about undoing the sanctions didn't actually led to the crisis that we had and the instability of the region. What Trump represents is a reset, where Iran will be fucked because the oil prices are going to go down. Russia and Iran are going to be fucked as oil prices go down because as mass production of the U.S. and the release of the American energy markets radically downplay the price. I think this is going to be one of the things. That's why there's been chaos, Operation Chaos in the United States. We're going to see more the terror attack in New Orleans. What's with the woman who basically what's her Amy? I don't know her last name. The woman who was the ex-CIA operative who basically, who went after bin Laden, and the woman who got bin Laden in that sense. I forget her last name. She was on the Sean Ryan show, and she's been predicting there's going to be serious, that the Biden administration, the way the border was held, and the way they're ignoring the Al Qaeda operations and radicalizations and sipping in of Al Qaeda operatives and other radicalized actors in the U.S. because of the southern border, the polar southern border. You're going to see these kind of in small group radicalized, and then you have the opposite. You have what we call the neoliberal left morons who are pro-Ukrainian. This kind of not necessarily Antifa, but Antifa adjacent neoliberals who are mentally unstable types who have been radicalized by the media and the media regime to think Trump as a threat to democracy and democratization, and that they have been radicalized to say this kind of NPC thinking about how we must be on Ukraine's side. Now, listen, I'm actually I favor Ukraine not losing and maybe even winning versus Russia. I'm not a Russian fan. I'm not a Putin fanboy. I think Putin is a destabilizing, dangerous threat, but he's not the greatest dangerous threat. I think he's not as powerful as he likes to project. He's a much weaker presence in that sense, but he's still a destabilizing because he's weak and because he is so paranoid. He is and delusional. Who's trying to keep hold of power. So it's kind of like that situation. Because that's the problem, is that these people are so hatred of Trump and they think, oh my God, Trump's going to be disaster. No, Trump is just Trump is a standard old Democrat, Clinton Democrat, old establishment. This is, this is why, and even Bannon is right that Trump was never, Trump was a moderate MAGA person in that sense. In other words, Trump is not necessarily for complete restriction of immigration. I think there should be an immigration ban for at least 20 years, 15 to 20 years. And you have to have a serious argument for why you should be able to come into the United States. Poland is in a weird situation. I think America right now is in a transitional moment until the electoral thing. There's no real president, but the deep state and the administrative state is running the show. And they're been radicalized by the Democrats through Obama and through the Biden years. The DOJ, the FBI's botching of both what happened in Las Vegas, apparently also even in New York, and New Orleans, Las Vegas, and even looks like New York incident. All of these things are just a disaster for they were more concerned with white radicalization, white, and not even radicalization of the white. I mean, not left wing crackpot radicalization. No. Christians and Trump supporters and MAGA supporters and things like that. This kind of radicalization, and ignoring Islamic radicalization. that the guy, the army is probably filled with a bunch of this guy in New Orleans clearly was radicalized and clearly should have been flagged. Uh, uh, it's amazing that he wasn't in that sense. This is very suspicious in that regards. But the FBI cared more for arresting January 6 people, as they even doing right now. This past week, they've arrested some January 6 people still. So, I mean, it's kind of like out of control. There needs to be I think not only I don't think Hash Patel will probably be the last director of the FBI. I think they have done so much right now that I think there will be a move to kind of either completely abolish or completely restructure, abolishing and restructuring the Bureau and other federal law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies. I think there's going to be, that's going to be, and that's what's going to, that's going to be something is going to be done there. That's why they're, the threats against Trump, there will be more and greater attempts against Trump's life. I think that is hoping to do it before the 20th of January. I think this is kind of be the kind of crap. This is their Hail Mary, hoping to eliminate Trump and prevent, if both him and Vance are removed by these kind of means, then Johnson, the cowardly Johnson, will be the speaker, will become the president of the United States, and the deep state can think they can play Johnson. So that's why we should be very careful. People should be looking out. I think Trump should not rely on Secret Service. I think Trump should hire his own private security services, and so should Vance, Blackwater, and things like this. No longer trust the civil service. The state, in other words, that's our Secret Service. The Secret Service can't be trusted. It needs to be replaced, or maybe even hire private firms to. What the government maybe have to hire private firms to do this rather than rely on a government agency that can be corrupted in that sense, to the degree that the Biden people have put, through DEI crap, put incompetent idiots in charge of everything. Look at the way corrupt politics have made look how clownish and geriatric the whole New Orleans situation was, and that police force, and they didn't even know about their own capacities. That's how corrupt and idiotic they were. So it's sad. As I mentioned in my earlier a video that kind of crashed, my Oakshot article has been accepted by Kronos. It's going to be published. My piece, I'm still waiting to hear back on my piece on Aristotle's political anthropology that they've had now since September. That was asked. That was I didn't. This was something that I was asked to submit to a journal that was originally 140. It was pretty highly points and then gutted to almost nothing. I still submitted the article. I think other people may have pulled their articles because of that, and that's why it's taking forever to get the volume together. Because of, I suspect that people all of a sudden didn't want to submit something for 40 points only. So I did that. I submit an article out to the Warsaw Political Science Journal, which is very little points. A book review was accepted to be published at the European Legacy. I submitted my article to a Polish journal on a political forum. The political forum thing that was done, the political and the social forum, the intersection of the political and social forum piece that I've had for working on finishing up. I think they're going to send it back to me simply because I think it's a little too long. It may be 7,000 characters too long. Ooh, I didn't realize they lowered their, I think they lowered the character count. I thought it was much higher before. Now it's so I didn't realize it, the edits and the corrections and the things and the footnotes made it much bigger. That sucks. I'm hoping that they will say okay and they'll go with it. And I'll get a feedback, and maybe they'll tell me to edit something or reduce something. But that's that piece out. The European Conservative rejected something. They want me to rewrite it. I'm going to rewrite it. It's a piece on Eddie Lamora's on the egalitarian envy. I needed to rewrite it. I have a draft wording. I just have to go check the quotes and make sure the quotes and the pages I'm using are the correctly done right. I was doing it without a physical copy of the book, just redoing it. And then the last thing I was doing, what is it? Work-wise, the article on what was it? It was the American Affairs piece on civic nationalism and ethnic nationalism that I have to get back to them by April 1st. That they liked it. They gave credit. They want me to revise it and rewrite it a little bit. It was the very good comments on that thing. I know what I have to do. I just need to set some time down, probably next month, and doing it. I am for the video guys. I'm going to start the recording of the Machiavelli's discourses. It's going to be weird. It's going to be chapter by chapter by chapter. Therefore, I'll get shorter videos because some chapters are very short, some chapters are very large. But I'm going to do it chapter by chapter, like I did the laws and the laws, but the politics and the ethics, and even the prince. The discourses are, we finish. We're middle of January. Middle weeks of January, February, we'll finish up the politics run through again. I'm working with someone to produce a website that's going to interconnect the outline, chapter by chapter outline, with the video, an embedded video of that chapter. So that is something I'm working on with someone, a colleague at Warsaw University who teaches English, who is interested in doing it, who's kind of is interested in that. And we'll just have to see what's going on in that front. Maybe I have to get funding from a department grant or something to try to maybe pay something. And that's the structure of what's going on. 2 weeks ago, we had my video, and Corliss kind of James responded to them. I have to thank him for those comments. He's talking about the new book by Gauchet which is kind of a rerun. Gauchet's new book is kind of a rerun on the last volume of his Advent to Democracy, the fourth volume it's kind of a redo and rewriting of it to have a self-alone book addressing the same questions in that sense in a different way, which I ordered for Christmas, and it'll come. I just got the notice from DHL that's coming from Paris. I got some packages today. I didn't open them yet because it came weird. Green Glass asked me, am I a Conrad fan? Yes and no. I like some of his works. Lord Jim, I'm not that much a fan of, but Heart of Darkness is my favorite. One of my favorite. Heart of Darkness is probably one of my favorite of Conrad's stories. Lord Jim, So Secret Agent, his book, so some Conrad I like more than others, but Heart of Darkness is still considered it is that. Sorry, I'm just kind of responding to Corliss's comments were of interest in that sense. let me just let me go through them quickly. Well, he had posted two things. One was "Wish me happy Christmas." He mentioned about the Gachette's new book on the Lenovo world. Was it about that and raised questions about Evola. He says, in other words, that people. He basically argued that people should look at Gachette's, particularly his the New World. Because it's about Gachette's argument is about the decline of religion, that it is with the what there's that the both communism and that is kind of responding to the desecularization that the modern world did, and that therefore this is what he's saying, that this is why Christian nationalism and renewal of Evola and integralism and these things are kind of revival, and that's why maybe looking at Gachet may be a very interesting thing for those studying this. This is why I've been trying to get someone to translate Gachet to an audience, but it's getting translations of French books is I tried my hand at trying to translate. I'm not a good my translation is horrible. I have been trying to translate political regimes by what's his name, Pierre. Well, come on, it's going to drive me crazy now. It's the Catholic guy, friend of Minot, is kind of Straussian influenced. His book, Political Regimes, his book on Machiavelli that I did a review of. I hope that's going to be out. That's going to be out published by a European Legacy, hopefully. These are the big. Gachette's book is probably going to be the very important one. I wrote a review for it in the Vogel View, the Advent of Democracy, but he has a new book. The new book is called the Neue Democracy, the New Democracy. It's part of. It was published just recently, 24, end of 24. As he says, from the quick look of it, through it, the book looks like a distillation of the argument made in the Advent Democracy, especially in the last volume, with more emphasis on how they can explain the current state of politics, populism, and the developing crisis of democracy. So that's, I think I will spend some time looking at that book too when I get it, probably tomorrow or next week. And Corliss is something else. A couple hours ago, he sent me something. The other news story over the New Year's has been over Elon's drawing attention to the grooming gang scandal in the UK. Yes, that's the big thing. Elon has been going big on the grooming gang scandal. And I on Twitter, I've been kind of responding to it. I've been saying, listen, in England, the English law allows for private prosecutions. Now, the Crown prosecute. What is a private prosecution? This is private actors can prosecute for criminal offenses, not for civil offenses, but for criminal offenses. In other words, that they can hire private people think there's a crime and that the police and the Crown Prosecuting Service is not doing. Now, the law has been changed that gives the Crown Prosecutory Service kind of a veto over something that they think is going to be a bad thing or something like that, harmful or something like this. But You can appeal that in the courts, and I think you could even appeal it under European law. The current understanding screws the weapons of European law against these people. Use all the systems that they created as a weapon against them. Lawfare. Go after Jess Phillips. Prosecute. Now, Elon could basically give $1 billion. Imagine if he gave $1 billion for a fund to process a prosecution against the labor government and the police for their involvement in these grooming gangs. And they're covering up and making the argument that covering up makes them co-conspirators after the fact. Criminal co-conspirators after the fact. Therefore, in other words, that Starmer himself, when he was head of Crown Prosecution Services, blocked investigations and prosecutions. So you can go after Starmer for criminal charges, make him a criminal co-defendant with the rapist, prove that, in other words, the argument would first you have to prove there's a crime. So $1 billion could get you an investigation team, make the case of this, get a legal team, get a bunch of victims and victims' families, pursue a case, target the ministers and the people, the police officers and the deputy guys and actually the defendants, and create use the courts as a kind of grand jury to get. You have to first show that there's a crime, then you go for the trial. So you treat the initial stages of the thing as a public grand jury, forcing this. Yes, the government. This idea that we're going to have. Of course, the labor government is going to block any kind of investigation of this, because a parliamentary investigation is meaningless. It's the surest way to cover it up. Go watch it. The surest way to get nothing done is have a parliamentary investigatory committee of it. No, you need a private prosecution. And if Elon is serious about this, put his money where his mouth is. A couple $100 million, maybe even create a fund, hire legal teams, produce the thing, create a forensic team to investigate this. If the Crown Prosecution Service and the police won't investigate, bring in private investigators and forensic team specialists, hire Blackwater, hire ex-SAS people and ex-MI5 people to go do it and do the government service for them. Out government the government in that sense. Private prosecution is possible under English law. This is not possible in American law. See, American doesn't allow for private prosecution, but English law still does. It's rarely used because it's such expensive, and only that's why if he's serious about wanting to stop this, someone as wealthy as Musk could fund a public prosecution of the government, the labor government and their cronies, and maybe even some Tories, some labor, both parties, labor and Tory home secretaries. One of the home secretaries who will be blamed will be Theresa May. Theresa May played a very important role covering up and doing the scandal. Another element of this would be the treatment against Robinson. Target judges. In other words, go and use the law as a weapon. Use the common law and the law as a weapon to destroy this labor government, and using their own arguments about this. Use the ECHR, the European Human Rights Convention, which they're clearly violating in that sense. Of this, the victims who are there have their rights being violated, and that under the ECHR, the argument is that the rapists and this women, girls were being a thing, and they were doing this. Now the argument, but that's because they're white. You can kill white, you can rape white girls because that's okay. No, Phillips, this goes back to everyone got mad at Sargon. I think a lot of conservatives like Rees-Mogg owe Sargon an apology for criticizing Sargon. You shouldn't have said that too. It was impolite to say. No, someone like Jess Phillips deserved what Sargon said. I wouldn't rape you. I wouldn't bother raping her. Because why? Because she's such a vile creature. She is complicit in the rape of those girls by her covering up the crimes. No, I'm sorry. That's the reality of it. And if Musk is highlighting it, it's a big thing. But put his money, given that you can conduct private prosecutions, he should fund one, a big one. And this may be the only way to save Britain. Use the law. The law. Use their own law. The stupid legal system that they created and the way they done it. Use the internationalization of law and the European Charter against them. Some judicial, legal judicial. Use their instruments and structures. Target the judges. Force the judges to. That if they do this, then they undermine their own perception. The argument that if they don't tolerate this thing that they're covered, they themselves are conspirators on a conspiracy to deny justice. It is a massive situation, and this is the moment. This is why it has to be a criminal. It has to be a criminal prosecution, and it has to be done privately, because the labor can't risk alienate the Muslim support that it gets. Without the Muslim voters, there would be no labor government. That's why they've encouraged this. This has been the long-term policy to ensure their ability to get a loyal. But what's happening is you've created a destructive force in England because of this. You're going to have armed camps in England that is at war. I understand David Starkey is right. David Starkey is not comfortable with with Tony Robertson and a lot of the extreme arguments, because he wants to avoid a civil war. And I understand why he would want to do that. Not that he's a neoliberal or things like this, is that he just doesn't. It's an ugly thing. It is not you. It is not going to be an interracial group conflict that leads to it's Bosnia. You're going to turn England into Bosnia. You're going to be turning England in. It's already. You can argue that it's already Africa, Rwanda, Bosnia level of intergroup strife. So what they need now is they need a civil prosecution, a civil prosecution that is going to go after the parties and use the law against them. And I think this is something that should be done. I don't know what else to say in that regard. I really don't know in that sense. This is people want to say something about that about Elon. I think Elon's doing a good service here. But again, Elon has a problem. See, this is the double side. Elon and Ramaswamy in their H1, H3 visa, they like high-tech workers. And Trump himself, I said, and this is Bannon is right, that Trump was always more of a moderate on these immigration issues than much of the MAGA base. I think there needs to be a 10-year halt on immigration, legal immigration. We need to undo the Hart-Celler Act. We need to have a more rational immigration policy that does not integrate people, bring in populations who are not suitable to be integrated in our society, American society. Not everyone can be integrated. I'm sorry, this is not going to be possible. And we can't you can't bring in populations who are this idea. This is one of the things that why the H-1 visas are what do you call it? H-1, I don't remember, 1H3B, whatever it's called. You're creating a workforce who can be deported. So of course they're hardworking. This idea that Vivek's argument that the Indian guys are harder working, yeah, because they're slaves. They work because they have to. They have nothing to do that. If they don't do work, they die. They're a slavish population. Yes, they work hard, but they don't have the positive. In other words, they have hard work, but then they are what? Ruthless. They have no charity. Anyone who's looked at Indian populations and how Indian businessmen and actually even Korean businessmen operate in American society, they don't play by the rules that WASP society does, which is beneficent. Now we have to understand that the creation of a WASP culture, that this English culture of individualism we like praising, is a specifically one that emerged. In other words, this is what's wrong with sometimes American thinking about the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence emerged out of a specific people, out of a specific culture and a specific understanding. You're a historicism. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. These are the habits. These are the customs. These are the ways of the people. You can't generalize from a given example. You can't say, this applies to all human beings. No, it doesn't. Peoples who have these same customs and these same ways of life and these same attitudes, yes, this will work on. But people who don't have the habits to self-govern, people who are only used to being surviving and servile, these will. Okay, I have to kill something. I hate killing things, but I have to kill things because idiot people calling 401. This is probably somebody wanting something. So it's that's the way it is. We have to be honest about it. Now do we want no immigration? We don't want smart people. We want smart people. Yes, we'll take them, but not to the degree that they're going to be. And the problem with these visas is they're being abused. If you actually look at who's being hired, they're being hired for like really low-level jobs that could be doing it. And that the argument that Americans aren't as good as in the STEM field. You know how many American STEM graduates there are that can't get jobs because the companies prefer hiring these other visas? Because these guys, they're here on a visa system that if they don't work hard, they will be sent back. They want to be here because this is better than the hell they come from, or the social status, and they can get money. They never get the wealth, even if it's crappy low wage compared to Americans. It's much better than they're used to. Therefore, they will accept all the restraints in this, and they perpetuate servile behavior, and their politics will be servile, and they will vote for the servile political party, the Democrats. So you don't want these people here. I'm sorry. I don't care how productive they are. They are still servile. They don't have the habits of being a free people. I don't mind them in low, very, very low numbers will be all right. But those in high numbers and massive, bringing it, but it's only 50,000 people. Well, 50,000 here, 50,000 there. That's enough. It can be. I think it's even higher, 130,000, something like that. We don't really know the exact numbers. I have to check about this. But this is specialized. No, it matters because these are jobs that born Americans, people born in America, not white people. Even my God, even intergenerational people, Asian children of the the Vietnamese who came here in 10, 15 years. Americanized, 2 generations Americanized since these people who are clearly American in their culture, their attitudes, and their things. Oh, but American! I had this fight on Facebook about, American kids are Generation Z people are lazy. They're lazy because the incentives are. I'm sorry. If you look at the reality of the education market, the job market, the way the industry is doing it, the visa, the rise of foreign visas, the way the educational system has been creating people, making them, you create a system that is designed that people that just can't win from. People will look at the system and say, "Oh, I opt out." If I look at this and I don't see a win-win, I look at the happen to the millennials. They look at what happened to Generation Xers and millennials, and they see, well, no, 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 no. This is not the way we promised. This is not what they said with the American, this idea that we're going to become up middle class by going to university. This is a lie. In other words, they look, and well, I'm not going to go get massive debt for this. And that the universities want to hire foreign students, bring them in because they're paying. They're going to be paying full rates. So this is a cash cow for the universities, who then you will use this. The visa regime system is to attract work students to come to America. That if we can then hire them, that they can get their student visa, turned into a work visa, and that therefore they can get the corporate Americas who funds and supports the universities. Will get wealthier in that sense. It is a cycle. It's a perverse cycle. In other words, they don't care to utilize American workers, but American workers are too expensive. It's not the question that they're unproductive. They're simply little less productive than the Indians and the Asian Chinese. Because why? Because these are people who are here basically being told, if you don't produce everything we want you to produce, we'll send you home. So of course they're hardworking because there's a gun to their head. They're slaves, and I really took it hilariously at people who were supposed to be the Claremont crowd, who always throw the Declaration of Independence out there. All people are born equal and free, and tie that with Ayn Randian nonsense. Collectivism. You talk about national group identity. That's this is the James Lindsay moronic world of anyone who talks about nationalism or identity politics, and they're woke, the woke right nonsense. This is just silliness. This is. I'm sorry. Human beings are social animals. They're built. They need to be part of a community. They need to be part of a social group. Therefore, they're going to have They're going to have habits and realities based upon their experiences and their things, and that there's going to be differential development of different peoples at different times because of their experiences and their habits. Not everyone's going to have the same habits and cultures and traditions, and this reinforces genetically because the traits are reinforced. So you have this. You have basically a divergent evolution of populations, both biologically and also social culturally. That can't be simply, you can take different people and put them together, but they have to be in a situation where there's a dominant population. This is what Putnam's research, Robert Putnam's research on social solidarity and social trusts indicates. The Western model, the WASP English model, has high levels of social trust. Why? Because they were highly homogeneous. Yet, even though they had significant levels of heterogeneity, but they didn't have excessive heterogeneity. They were homogeneous, but not excessively homogeneous. They had a nice safety net of homogeneity that could take difference and integrate it to get a maximum utility. In other words, if difference gets too high and it's basically a heterogeneous environment, then there's no safety net of homogeneity, and therefore then there's going to be group fighting and group contestation and no social trust, low social trust. So that's about it. I think that's going to be the thing today. I'm not going to go much more than that. I'll let you guys hear. You can again follow me on social media. The links are below, and not today. It's not there today. It's gonna be tomorrow. I'm not going tomorrow. I have to do some things. There'll be the links to the social media and the things in the link description below. You want to help me, you can do so through subscribe to our Patreon or through buying one of my books. Again, just check the links below, and when they're there, they're not there today. There's not even going to be a proper. Thumbnail. It's good to talk about this next week. I'll have a more organized thing in that sense to do this. I'll have some books to talk about. I hope you guys had a good Christmas and a happy New Year's, and welcome everyone to 2025. I joke about this is my sixth. We're in my sixth decade. I said earlier my first thing. I said 6th century. 600 years old. No, I'm not 600 years old, but I'm sixth decade. So it's 6 decades, 6 cycles around the sun, man. So it's wish you again a happy New Year. I hope everything's okay. And take care, and I will see you next week, and enjoy the remaining of the Aristotle's Politics series, and I will see you guys again. Take care. Bye-bye.